Welcome to VRChat. We've got all kinds of avatars. Small ones, big ones, green ones, round ones. There are hundreds of thousands of avatars to choose from. The sky and Unity really are the limit.
If you've never played VRChat before, think of an avatar like a profile picture. Like any other social media platform, you can choose what represents you. But an avatar is 3D, and through the power of VR and full body tracking, it's easily the closest thing that you can have to stepping into the shoes of another person.
But there's an interesting phenomenon that I want to talk about.
Much like me, there are a lot of dudes who choose to represent themselves as anime girls. Why is that? And more importantly, will playing VRChat turn you into a woman?
Let's take a trip back in time to the marvelous year of 2010. Haiti is in shambles after a massive earthquake. Deepwater Horizon is spewing oil into the sea. Oh cool, Apple made the iPhone but bigger.
As with any other year, it was full of horrible and tragic events, but there is one good memory that I have of that time, and that was the launch of Halo Reach.
After becoming a huge Halo fan from Halo 2 and 3, I was dying to get my 10-year-old hands on Halo Reach. My older brother and I pooled our money together to pre-order it and went to the midnight launch in town to pick it up on one crisp Midwest September night.
For the younger people in my audience, this was back when games were playable without a 200 gigabyte day one patch.
We got home, put the game in our Xbox, and got to playing. The thing that I was most excited to check out was those new customization options from all of the trailers.
We could even play the campaign as our custom Spartan.
Whoa. I can change the helmet, the chest plate, armor colors. Wait a minute, male or female? That's interesting. I've never had to think about that in Call of Duty.
You're probably expecting me to say something like, and this is when I realized I was trans, but it just wasn't like that.
I picked a female Spartan and simply played the game, not really thinking about it much after that.
And that's kind of how I've always been. Whenever I'm given the option, I choose a female character. That's how I played Cyberpunk, Destiny 2, Necopar.
And I'm not alone in this. There was a cool study done by some nice people on over 2,000 social VR users. Around 3 out of 4 people with shafts use female avatars.
Let's find out why.
We ourselves are not absolutely certain what will happen. We are going into the unknown.
We did not want to say goodbye.
In 1945, the world's superpowers were engulfed in the most historically devastating conflict the world has ever seen. There's a lot of interesting and horrible topics to discuss when it comes to World War II, but there's one particular part that matters to our story. When I was last in Japan to visit my fiance, we stayed in Nagasaki and visited Hiroshima. We went to the nuclear museum to pay our respects and learn more about the things that happened here. Exactly 72 years after the weapon was dropped on Hiroshima, we stood together under the center of where it had detonated, the hypocenter. At one point, the air around us was 2,000 degrees hotter than the surface of the sun. My skin still crawls when I think about it to this day. After the war ended, the US partnered with Japan. Maybe not out of the kindness of their hearts, but to have an ally close to those filthy commies. The result was one of the largest economic booms in history. From 1945 to 1991, Japanese people went from living like this to skyscrapers and fuel injection.
Along with giving us some of the most iconic cars and tech of our time, this was also the rise of Japanese animation.
Tonari no Totoro, Grave of the Fireflies, Kiki's Delivery Service, Castle in the Sky, and Dragon Ball were all created during this era, and that shit slapped.
It slapped so hard that it made its way across the globe and into the eyes and ears of kids across the world, planting a seed that has undoubtedly influenced us to this day, for better or for worse.
Itashas, sad lo-fi edits, shaker cups, shirts, stickers, phone cases, buy my
The anime art style has become more normalized than ever before, but I'd argue that it isn't popular just because it's cute.
The Japanese simply understand aesthetics. From the horrors of Junji Ito to the cutesy style of Spy X Family, it has quite literally become a science to them. In 1978, Japanese professor Masahiro Mori created the idea of the uncanny valley, represented by this graph here. This simple graph explains why you feel uncomfortable when you see robots that look like this, or those kinds of e-boy avatars. The idea behind it is very simple, but the impact is immeasurable. Essentially, the more human a robot, character, or object looks, the more likely we are to become uncomfortable by it. The anime aesthetic is perfect because it falls somewhere right here, right below that tipping point of weirdness.
And this is part of why I think the anime aesthetic is so popular. Not only does it avoid the uncanny valley, but it also leaves a lot of room for expression and customization. You don't have to follow the rules of reality. People can have pink hair or massive...
But that truly only answers half of our question. We know exactly why the anime art style is popular, but why exactly do so many dudes pick anime female avatars? You already know that you can find an avatar that someone else has made and use it. That's what a lot of people do. But once you dig deep enough, you're gonna eventually want an avatar that's completely unique to you. Well, if you want to do that, you've got options. Brand new whip just hot.
You can either spend a ton of time learning Blender and making countless donuts, or
just learn the bare basics of Unity, use a couple of plugins, and you're able to drag and drop whatever you want onto your avatar easy as pie. This is because other creators have already done most of the work for you.
Let's pretend just for 1 second that I wanted to make myself a new avatar with nuts.
Our adventure first starts on Booth. Here I can find what we call a base. The base usually includes the body, hair, and most of the time clothes for our avatar. Not even 10 seconds in, we run into our first problem. There just aren't many good male bases. I want something wholesome, not swolesome. And all of these ones are jacked, and I'm not. These types of male avatar bases are pretty much everywhere. Well, why?
it's capitalism time, brother!
The creator economy around VRChat is really interesting. There are countless different types of creators. Well, specifically, we're going to talk about the creators on Booth and Gumroad. They make their money by creating assets that make creating your avatar a whole lot easier.
As we talked about before, the process of making an avatar starts with finding a base. Then you buy clothes and accessories for that base to make it really unique.
But these creators are doing this to pay their bills. So they tend to make outfits and add-ons for avatar bases that a lot of people use, which is completely understandable. There are simply many more options available for an anime girl base than there are for a male equivalent.
It's a chicken or egg situation. People tend to use female avatars more because they are better supported. Creators support them more because people tend to use them more. Welcome to a feedback loop.
So if you're a male and you don't really like the jacked e-boy glowing tattoos aesthetic and you want a lot of customization options to really make it your own, your best options are to use an avatar like Rusk or Mame Hinata, where it's not obvious what gender they are, or just bite the bullet and enjoy being a dude as a female avi.
So, quick recap. 3 out of 4 dudes use a female avatar because they like the aesthetic, and there are way more customization options. Something Rindo exists because of a nuclear bomb. But there's a group of people that I haven't talked about yet, and you're probably wondering when I'll say something about my trans homie.
We all know that YouTube comments can be a little unsavory at times. Thankfully, I don't get too much hate, but when I do, it usually revolves around me using a female avatar and getting told that I'm horrible because I'm trans.
Well, here you go. This is the one and only time I'll ever acknowledge comments like this on my channel.
It's transphobia, ironically against someone who plain and simple isn't trans. Like we've talked about, people pick avatars for all kinds of reasons. Statistically, most men pick female avatars because they are better supported by the community. But if you're like me, before I started playing VRChat, I was pretty closed-minded. I grew up in a small town, and despite my parents never telling me what to think, I was incredibly uncomfortable around trans people because the media in 2016 was telling me trans people are crazy and trying to take our guns.
And here is exactly why the video is called VRChat will turn you into a woman. I had to get your attention somehow, right?
When I first got into VRChat, it was purely just to mess with people. Then, before I knew it, I had a Vive and full body. VRChat changed me, and in a way that I would say is for the better. Society for the longest time has done its best to repress expression from men. We are told as men that we must like the color blue over pink. Boys aren't allowed to cry, blah 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 blah. We live in a society. VRChat has helped me get over stupid stuff like that. You're the only one who has to live as you. Do yourself a favor and be yourself. We're all going to end up in a box anyway. At the end of the day, VRChat is just a platform that is only as good as the people who play it. Some of those people are going to be a little loose in the head. But if you think that VRChat is for nothing but degenerates, you're probably only hanging out with degenerates.
I am really particular about who I hang out with, and you should be too. VRChat tryhards are everywhere, and you need to keep that brain safe, my friends.
Thank you for watching, homies. A huge thank you to Devin, Tugsten, Grenzukun, Zeus Pesto, Hockey, and my good friend Ryan for joining the Patreon and supporting me. I really appreciate it.